Hello, Gunners, and hope you're doing very well. It's Eddie, and this is the Gunner Pavilion preview of the Arsenal versus the Aston Villa game. If you are enjoying your Christmas, you've got some time off as well. Hope you're having a good time with your loved ones. And if you're still working, as well, hope you're getting some quiet moments to be able to reflect on what 2025 has been. And 2025 has been an interesting year, for us Arsenal fans with a lot of highs and lows. And we're going to look back and reflect on 2025. But before we do that, we've got to get over this game, Arsenal versus Aston Villa. This is a game that will be season defining for a number of reasons. I always love to start, these shows and these previews, by posing a question, guys. After Villa punched us in the mouth in the reverse fixture, um, you know, what would Arsenal prove in this game? Can Arsenal actually prove that they can beat Villa, or can they prove that they've learned how to beat Villa? And they sound similar, but they're very, very different questions. And we're gonna dive into it because I believe that this game is very, very different. Contrary to what everyone is saying outside, and we kind of ignore the form that Man Aston Villa are coming into this game. I almost said Man City. Aston Villa are coming to this game. No denying that 11 games won in the spin, and that has got to say something. But there is something about Aston Villa and especially about Arsenal that I think that Arsenal have the edge. And we're going to break it down in this game. But before I do that, guys, I do want to say, genuinely thank you to every single person who's been rocking with us, on this channel, throughout the year, every 7,000 plus subscribers that we have. I do want to say thank you to all of you. And thank you for all of those that keep coming back, watching this channel and, commenting, liking, and subscribing as well. This channel will not be doing anything without you guys. Doesn't work, without you guys. So really appreciate that. I know that 2026, we're going to do so much more and hopefully, bigger and better things, for us on this channel. But as we always do, let's get into the preview. Okay, so before we go into the preview, sometimes it's good to look back, at what happened the last time when we faced Aston Villa. And it was a bad day, for Arsenal. It was more of a warning in terms of that game. The brutal part of that game was it wasn't even about one mistake. It was about how often Villa got into Arsenal's box and how uncomfortable we looked in chaos. Now, Arsenal conceded 24 shots in that game and 2.27 expected goals. That is so high from Aston Villa. That is typically not normal for teams that play us, and there are a number of reasons why that was the case, and we'll get into that. um because it wasn't like as if we got beat. And I know that there was a last minute goal that actually won it for Villa. But there was a lot that was in that game that I don't think will happen in this game again. Now, the thing with Villa is that it isn't just about the striker or a winger. It's really about the way that they play, and it makes you feel like the game is playing being played on a slope, right? And you just imagine being on a slope and everything is just sliding down, and you're trying to stop things from falling. um they will let you settle, then snap into you. They'll let you pass, then they'll trap you in the next phase. And when the games breaks open, they're comfortable in living in that chaos, comfortable in the transition with your quick players, the likes of Morgan Rogers, the likes of Ollie Watkins are going to be integral. But there's a number of players that are going to be out of this game that are absolutely going to make a difference with what we see here. People talk about Aston Villa as if they're all about counter attack, and that is true, but to a large extent, they do actually hurt teams, from a distance. When I was researching Aston Villa for this game, and I was looking at, what Opta was saying about them. They're actually third in the table and have scored more goals from outside the box than any other Premier League team this season. And they've scored 10 goals outside the box. Isn't just about, watching Watkins, and all of that. It's about those second balls. It's about giving them space at the edge. Don't give them the rhythm for those first hit shots. Okay, so this is where I think that this game is going to be different. The big difference for Arsenal is Gabriel and Saliba. At Villa Park, we're missing a key centre backs, and that stability showed throughout that game, not just in defending crosses, but also in defending moments. Gabriel and Saliba, they don't just defend, they calm the game down. They win the first contact, they organize the line, they stop the panic. And this season, there's lots of evidence, for that. According to Opta, Arsenal's shots on target conceded has been pushed up when we don't have our first choice centre backs. Specifically, right now, we're conceding about 6 shots on target, which were considered, versus Aston Villa. And when we have Saliba, that that actually changes that rate to about 3 shots on target across the next 2 games. And with Gabriel expected to back soon, obviously he played in the last couple of minutes for Brighton. I fully expect him to start this game. I think we see a lot less shots taken at Arsenal. And I think that defensive solidity and the fact that those numbers are so important actually means that Arsenal are less likely to concede goal. For me, I think this game is going to be won or lost on a number of things because what Villa won is to have things be chaotic. And we saw that at Villa Park because they thrive on that. Arsenal want to settle, they want to control the game, they want to control the tempo. And I think that, what's going to be happening in this game, especially, with the players that are missing for Aston Villa, I think Arsenal will have the edge in the midfield. Now, let's just look at things that I think that are going to be important in this game. Villa under Emery are excellent at marking, your safe spaces. And the key isn't just about Rice and Zubimendi being good. It's about them being almost, I would say, boring in a way. It means that they don't force hero balls and they don't give Villa the transition that they want because that's exactly what they want. You know, Arsenal losing the ball in critical areas and then being able to break on Arsenal. Arsenal set pieces, is going to be important in this game. I think it will help Arsenal settle. I think the first couple of set pieces are going to be important. Is going to be able to allow Arsenal to set the platform for what they can actually do in this game. Um, when we look at what opponents are not capable of doing against Arsenal, especially from a shot suppression perspective, I think that actually gives us encouragement. And look, listen, guys, this is kind of going to be one of those games where, we might end up still being, with a lot of nerves. But at the same time, I think that Arsenal can be quietly confident if they kill off this game in the first half. I I think that this game is right there for Arsenal in the taking. Now, when we look at the teams that I think that is probably going to come out for this game, I'm going to start with Aston Villa because obviously Aston Villa have got a number of players that might not be playing in this game. That and timing is always important when you play players. Matty Cash is a very important player for Villa. He started in all of the 18 games for Villa up to now. And Kamara is also a very important player for them. And I think for us, right, Villa love when Kamara is screening and Cash overlapping. We also saw what Cash did when we played against them at Villa Park and begin, crashing those second balls into the box. I think without Cash and without Kamara, I think we have that edge in the middle of the park. So, Martinez, I hear is a doubt, but he would do everything to come back into this game and play against Arsenal. So I expect Borga to come in instead of Cash. You got Konsa, Lindelof, and Matson, playing in that back line. Then you've got Onana, and I expect Tillemans to come into that midfield and play. McGinn, Buendia, and Rogers and Watkins will play this game. I think that Emery will want to capitalize on the form that Watkins have, and especially the fact that he loves to play against Arsenal and loves to score against Arsenal. So I think that's going to be important. But I think that without those two players that I mentioned very well, because Tilleman is more of a progressive sort of player, he's not as great defensively as Kamara, as an example. And Buendia is not, as defensive as you would expect. So I think Emery will be either looking for those players, to kind of come in. And it might be interesting though, because he may decide not to start Buendia just to allow him to come in, exactly what he did in that game against Arsenal at Villa Park, and which might be a mistake as well. I think that Rice, Zubimendi, and Odegaard would have that game, and I think that there's going to be a lot of Villa playing the way that they played us a couple of seasons ago, where they sat in, and really waited for the break and told Arsenal to try and break us down. I think that's kind of the way that this game is going to be. With Gabriel, Saliba, Gyökeres, and Rice on the pitch, I think our presence in the box returns. Um, and I think that we can now, be a threat on set pieces again. Watkins love, those spaces and chaos. But I think against Saliba and Gabriel, I'll be a lot more confident that we can actually curtail, what happens. I think the real key question for Arsenal here is what they do at right back. If Timber cannot go and we have to have Rice play at right back again, I don't really like that matchup. The matchup against Ollie Watkins, because you know what's going to happen. Villa are going to target that part of the pitch, especially with their long balls and wanting Watkins to run in behind. So that's going to be really interesting. But I also think that the Emirates factor is going to play a part in this game. I think the players know what this game is about. I think the manager understands why this game is very important. And more importantly, actually, Arsenal play before Manchester City. So there's a chance for Arsenal to put pressure on Manchester City ahead of the game that they play. And they play Sunderland. So this series of games could be very, very important in the title race. Okay, so let's frame this properly in the context of the 90 points that Arsenal need in order to win the league. Arsenal are now on 42 points from 18 games. That's halfway point of the season. Not bad. I do remember when we had 50 points at this time of the season when we went on our first title run. The target still remains the same. We need 90 points to win this league, which means we need 48 points needed from the final 20 games. And Villa actually now sits in the bucket of swing games. Those five swing games are Aston Villa at home, Manchester United at home, Chelsea at home, Spurs away, and Brighton away. Now, from those five games, Arsenal need 13 points minimum. So that's four wins and a draw. This Villa game is the foundation. We win this, and Arsenal stays on track. We drop points here, and then suddenly the margin of error disappears very quickly. We've got to keep the end goal in mind, guys. So when I think about the Arsenal team that would play in this game, obviously Raya will play at goal. I think everything remains the same. I expect now we don't know how Calafiori is feeling, but I wouldn't be upset if Mars Lewis Kelly continues to start on the left hand position, and then um, you have Saliba and Gabriel, but something tells me that Mikel Arteta might want to start with Nkapie on a left-hand position. But if that's the case, it really, really now depends on what happens on our right back. I don't love to see, Declan Rice play the right back position. I think you can make the adjustment for a team like Brighton. But I think a team like Aston Villa, I think it will be dangerous for us to do that. So that is a problem that we need to solve, and hopefully Jurgen Timber can go and that extra couple of days rest would have done him some good. In the middle of the pack, I expect to see Odegaard, Rice, and Zubimendi, playing. It really depends on what happens, on that right back position. And then up front, it's probably going to be the same as what we saw against Brighton, with Trossard starting, with Gyökeres up front, and with Saka playing on the right-hand side. Is Mikel Arteta going to throw something different, just because the games are way too close? Um, I mean, this is going to be the ultimate test of trust for Mikel Arteta, whether he does trust, you know, Eze to come into this game, or maybe Noni Madueke to come into this game. I was very curious that we didn't use Noni Madueke at all, in the game against Brighton. So I'm just wondering whether he was just saving him for this game. So that would really be interesting. Um, I feel confident in this game because of what Aston Villa are losing in the center of the park, but we've got to make it count. We've really got to make it count. With Gabriel back, we've got our midfield stability and Villa missing key disruptors. I think that Arsenal can win this game by 2 goals to nil. Now, it's probably going to be one of those games where we are 1-0 and it's nervy until the last couple of minutes to the end of the game, and then we seal it with the second goal. Maybe a set piece moment, another goal from, out of the blue, outside of the box. I think we take the points either way. And it is really important, for us to win this game against Aston Villa because one, it also, we are playing against a team that are right now, on the best form, in the Premier League right now, winning 11 games in a stretch. So that actually tells you something. I think it would give confidence, for the team. But more importantly, it's you actually navigate this December period that has been a crazy, crazy time in terms of the game. And then you go into January, with a different kind of focus. And then you start to approach the games where you can actually really rotate, as well. There's a lot more cup games in January, so it means that you can actually pick and choose the teams for your Premier League games and your cup games. So I think this game is really, really important for Arsenal. But let me know what you guys think, about the game. Let me know what you think about the prediction. Who does Mikel Arteta start in the Arsenal positions? Who does he trust? And what are we expecting this game to look like? Please hit that like and subscribe button. Drop your comments and predictions, as well. And of course, we'll be here to talk about, the reaction from that game, win, lose, or draw on the Pavilion debrief. Hope everyone's doing well. I'll see you in the next one.